I'm always thinking as a teacher, even if the person is wrong, we have to be de-escalators. In leadership, it's very hard, especially when you're dealing with teenagers who think they got it all figured out. Welcome back to Teacher Tales, where we give you the keys to overcoming teacher burnout to find work-life balance and educational bliss, if it still exists. On this Socratic session, Sparkle and I unpack leadership skills, how to get them, and how to teach them by discovering practical tips for effective leadership, including disciplinary issues and staff relationships. Next, learning to successfully navigate the challenges within the education system. And lastly, exploring how acknowledging mistakes can strengthen your influence. So, Sparkle, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always a joy.
So you've been in education for 11 years, kind of a little bit more
13.
Counting your substitute positions. I count them too. So, hey, listen, it's all education. So 13 years, you've witnessed many different kinds of leadership changes.
Mm-hmm.
You've taught leadership skills in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've taught other teachers leadership skills as well. So obviously, this Socratic session, which is what I've named these.
Okay.
I love that name too, by the way. This one's about leadership.
All right.
What has been your experience with being a leader?
Okay.
And then also experience with, I guess you would say, like good and bad leadership.
All right. Starting with my experience. I think my first dose of experience in leadership was when I was made department head.
Ooh, department head.
Yeah.
I want to be a department head
Do you?
at some point. Not right now. Not right now.
Yeah. And I was kind of thrown into it. Which I accepted, but I was just kind of thrown into it with very little experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it helped grow me because I was having to have some crucial conversations.
Like what?
Like one of the paras on the team. And again, so this is department head for the special education department. One of the paras was taking one of the nonverbal kids' lunch and eating it.
What? That's awful.
Yeah, I know. So that was a real, things like that. And, I had a couple of parents who were like bouncing balls off the kids' heads and stuff. And again, they're nonverbal, so they can't speak for
Why?
themselves.
What is wrong with these people?
Yeah. So I was having to have these conferences, say, this is the standard, this is the expectation. I would hope that you don't eat anybody else's lunch, things that you think you don't have to talk about. And then documenting those conversations so administrators could track it. That was my first dose of you're in leadership now. Yeah.
Dang.
When I, went into a different role, compliance, then it was more of now you're breaking the law because you're not providing this, you're not providing this, you're not providing this. The expectation is X, Y, and Z. And when that was not met, then it was, taking it to the next level. Okay, this has to be addressed because, again, it's legal. We're required to. It's not optional.
Okay, so because you're one of those people, are you one of those people that's like CCing everybody? Are you, because one of my pet peeves is somebody who has never talked to me. They're emailing me and they're CCing 1,000 people instead of just
having the conversation.
knocking on my door. Hey, Mr. Franklin, can I talk to you right quick? Let's do that part first.
Yeah.
Because I'm the type of teacher that's going, my bad,
right.
Or let's fix it, let's figure it out.
Right.
So are you like...
I'm not the CC everybody person unless I have to.
Right.
They know that when I walk around to their classroom on Friday, what I'm coming for.
Yep.
So sometimes they would say, hey, give me an hour, come back. Cool, no problem. But when I'm going 2-3 weeks in a row and you still ain't tracked or documented anything, now that's a problem. But I'm going to make multiple attempts before I say, hey, let me just go ahead and add the administrators on here. So I gave people a shot. But then as an administrator trying to address things, that was a whole different level of
Talk about it.
leadership, because you're not only responsible just for student learning, but it's like encompasses the entire campus. So you're talking about issues with the cafeteria people, issues with the custodial staff, issues with people being on the property, community people being on the property and they're not supposed to. It's like everybody, parents, grandparents, all the people. Then you're talking about, custodial issues. Both parents want the kid, but, it's just a lot that comes with being an administrator. And you got to call the police to be the mediator because one parent has rights, another parent has rights, but they both want the kid at the same time. Right. Just a whole...
That sounds awful.
Whole lot of stuff. Whole lot of stuff. So, I mean, it's kind of been a progression over the years of seeing what that looks like. But
so I'll just ask, what do you think makes a good leader? And I guess a bad leader just wouldn't have those qualities.
I think a good leader has grace, for one. A good leader remembers what it was like when they were not a leader. Right. So they know how to handle people and how to handle, situations where grace is needed. But I think a good leader is also structured, because as much as people don't necessarily like to feel confined to some degree, I think people thrive with structure. Yes. You have to, right? There has to be some boundaries, in place that you have to be able to follow. So I think that a good leader understands that there has to be a healthy balance of organization, structure, processes and procedures, while also saying, okay, but I can give you grace in this area, or I can be a little bit more lenient in this area, or I can take, just simple things like understanding that teacher burnout is a very real thing, right? And how people can get there. And then adjusting, like we've talked about before, the work-life balance. So understanding those things and saying, okay, let me find a way to meet the needs of my staff, and let me just give you the gift of time. You can come in 30 minutes late today, or you can leave 45 minutes early today. I think a good leader reads the room all the time and knows how to follow suit.
So how has your life or your job been different based on leadership? So when you have a good leader, what does that look like? And then what does it look like when you don't have a good leader?
So I have worked under some really, really, really great leaders. And when I have, it's made me willing to do more and to be more. When I've worked with good leaders, I've been willing to say, okay, yeah, I'll take on that extra club, or I'll take on that extra professional development. Yeah, whatever the responsibility may be. It's a willingness to do more. And I've worked with really great leaders who've also seen more in me than I probably have seen in myself, and have encouraged that growth. Not to keep me, you're such a good teacher, I want to keep you here. Right. But being a good leader in that I can see something in you too, and I want to help you get there. But I've also been under some not so great leaders, where I have felt like to the core of me, I'm never going to grow under this leadership. I got to get out. Yes. And I mean, in all capacities, I'm never going to grow. I'm not going to learn the things I need to learn. I'm not going to grow because they want to keep me here and kind of bound to where I am. Poor leadership in that I've had leaders who have pushed a lot of responsibility on me because they didn't know how to handle those things themselves. And if you can't handle it as a leader, if you're given the task or the chore to me, what does that say about you as a leader? And
you don't deserve your job.
Right, you don't need to be here. You do not need to be here. And I'd say, especially as admin, towards the end of my time, I had a lot of parents would be like, I want to speak, to principal. Okay, principal don't want to come out, don't want to have those conversations, and they're like, "Well, no, he sends you out here every time." Yeah, I know, but I'm here. So what do you want me to do? So it's just a difference. Like it's you're willing to be more, to do more, to help out more when you got a good leader.
Yeah.
But not as much with the
I
adverse.
would say that a good leader can take a job that you don't like and kind of get you to come to work and buy in.
Yeah,
But a bad leader can take a job that you do like
it'll make you hate it.
and make you hate it. Like, I'm not going there. They suck.
Yeah, it's real.
I've witnessed, just my short time being at my school, 3 different principals. Very, very different people as well.
Mhm.
But I just look at how other people respond to the leadership. And so I teach a lot of leadership skills in my class.
Yeah.
I'm somebody that communication is my thing. So I'm always looking at how do they talk to people? How are they when they come in the room? How do people look at them? How do they
Yeah.
respond to what they do?
Right.
So it's just always, I feel like when you do have that good leadership, you got to have somebody that's personable.
You have to have that.
And when I did my project for my grad course, one of the principals that I talked to, who is at one of the top high schools, and probably the top high school in the district, I would say, he said, you got to be visible. You know, people have to see you around campus. They have to know who you are. They have to know that you're there, not just in your office. And so he said, every day, Monday through Friday, without fail, he opens up the front doors. At 6:50, he lets those kids in, and he's standing right there, I guess, like where the lunchroom is, the common area. And he's always in the same spot every day. People can talk to him. People can see him. People can ask him questions. And so he's always out there. He's talking to the kids. He's talking. So he said the biggest thing that you have to do is be visible.
Yeah.
And so I kind of combating that with the person that wouldn't even come out their office to talk to those teachers.
Right.
I would say, how do you feel like a principal kind of could affect, I guess, the burnout that happens on campus?
I think that they just play such a big part all around because, again, that's being supported piece. Like if I know that you're present, if I know that you're willing to meet with me, if I know that you're there to answer any questions I might have, like it just changes how I feel about being here. But if I come here and I don't feel supported, then I don't desire to be here. And I think that, I mean, not only teachers, but I think that plays a part with any staff member, right? Like, I don't want to be here. Or even as a parent, is this the kind of campus I want my kids to be at if they're not getting what they need from school leadership? Or if I'm not getting the questions I need answered or whatever as a parent of a child who's here when it comes to school leadership. So I think I absolutely agree that you got to be present. They have to know that you're there, not only to, when you do the evaluations and appraisals and stuff like that. That's not the only time I want to see you come out. That's not the only time I want to see you. Like, I need to know when we're in, PLCs or we're doing whatever kind of meetings, like you're involved and you're a part of it. And you can answer any questions that we have. But I think, I don't know. I see both sides because I've been a leader. So I can understand why some principals are more rigid, whereas they may not have the same concerns with you as a teacher, right? Like you come in, you do your job, you do what you're expected to do. But you do have those teachers who sneak in through the back door because they're tardy and they're slackers and they're not submitting what they're supposed to submit.
It's like the classroom.
It is.
Most of the attention goes to the people who aren't doing what they're supposed to.
Right. And it negatively impacts the other students most often. And I guess as a degree of fairness, you try to just make it the same across the board, but it just kind of sucks for the kids or the staff who are doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. One of the principals that we had, the bubbly one, obviously, because I'm an extrovert and I like people who talk and who like to be obviously that person was, I feel like, amazing for the campus because every time this person came into your room, she would leave a note, a little sticky note,
Yeah.
just talking about how great you were. And so I think people need that now more than
Yeah.
ever,
Yeah.
because there's enough I gotcha type stuff. There's
Yeah.
enough people who are struggling and having a difficult time in their jobs. So to have a person like that on campus, so regardless of whatever principal stuff that was going on,
Yeah.
that I'm not privy to, because our lens is definitely
Yeah.
shaped by our experiences with
Yeah.
that person. So all of my experiences were always like, this person's at every game. This person hugs
Right.
everybody. This person was always in such a great mood, at least from the outside looking in. And then whenever they came into the classroom, it was all love. Like, that's how I would
Right.
describe this person. So it is so hard to be able to balance it
Yeah.
in the best ways.
Yeah. It is. It's a challenge. Like you said, your lens is shaped by your experiences. And
Mhm.
so you never know as a leader what experiences they may have had at a school before that kind of makes them be like when, when I was doing my observation hours before going into teaching,
Mhm.
and that teacher said to me, "Don't you go in here being nice. You
That
go in
is
here
crazy.
and this is how you have to be."
Do you subscribe to that, like, don't smile until Christmas? You ever heard that before?
I
I'm
have
sure.
heard that. That's not me.
That's so.
I can't do it.
I found that the more you build those relationships with people, that's always going to be more buy-in
Yes,
than just
I agree.
ruling with the iron fist.
I agree. You got to build rapport, especially with kids. You're more likely to have them open up more.
Mm-hmm.
And to respect your leadership as the teacher when you have built a relationship with them.
And they get other people in line.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't do that to that teacher. I like that teacher.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially on a secondary level, you get that a whole lot more. But
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. Like I think it plays a big part. Like I will say, like as a leader, one of the things you just mentioned was something that I did every week. Like I went in, and the desk that the teachers had, you could use dry erase markers to write on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get a dry erase marker and I would go every single classroom and just leave a thank you note or some sort of note of appreciation on their desk for something they did that week. But then that opened the door then they were more willing to come to me and say,
Yep.
"Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Or how can I do this differently?" Whereas they kind of pushed away from the other administrator more because it was like,
I don't know you. I don't even know you.
Yeah.
Like, I have no connection to you.
And so when I did have something that may needed to be, like a critique or an improvement, they were more willing to receive that.
That too.
So,
because they know you care.
Well, I guess like for you as a teacher, is their leadership style like encourage you to be a better leader in the classroom or even encourage you to follow a path of leadership based on how they handle leadership on campus?
I don't do what I do based on who other people are or what they do. So the way that I am in my classroom is because of who God made me to be.
Yeah, sure.
So we both obviously are believers. And so a lot of what we do is kind of framed from that standpoint. So I know that teaching is a gift that I have.
Right.
And so I'm using my gift to teach the things that I enjoy or that I know about. So that's kind of how it all lines up.
Yeah.
Communication and teaching, connecting. So like what I do is not going to be based on who my principal is or what kind of leadership style they have or any of that kind of stuff. I just do it based on my God-given ability and the work that I put in.
Yeah.
So, my leadership doesn't really affect what I do in the classroom. Now, I think that as a person, you have to be able to adapt to the leadership that you have.
That's true.
So if I have somebody that's like stuff very structured and wants things at a certain day or time, whatever they're asking for, it's incumbent upon me to do what they want. Don't be the worst just because it's like something that you don't agree with or don't like or whatever. Who cares? Like, it's not about you. This is what they need.
Yeah.
And I've found that most people are operating from a situation where they're not supported. So Uh, I feel like a lot of people as teachers, they feel like I'm not supported. I would then go because I think I'm pretty cool with our admin, and those people will go, well, I'm not supported. And then that principal will go, well, I'm not supported. So I think it just kind of goes all the way up the chain
Yeah.
where you have a structure in American education, the United
For
States of
sure. For
America,
sure.
where they don't care that much about education. The funding continues to get cut. You know, we have to do what we can do with what we
Right.
have. And so I think that just works all the way down until
Yeah.
you get to, you
It
know,
does.
teacher level.
It does.
You get like, I don't feel
Yeah.
supported. So how do you figure that part out when you don't feel supported as a teacher or as an administrator or
Yeah.
whatever role you have, working with what you have, you know, glass half full or glass half empty?
Right. I think one of the things, like when I was in leadership, one of the things that came up often, especially as disciplinary issues were concerned, was that teachers always feel like I'm not supported. You know, this student can do X, Y, and Z, and they get sent right back to the classroom.
Number
Or
one
this,
thing.
yeah. But when I became an administrator, my eyes were opened. And it's hard. It's very, very hard because what I learned is that the district has a lot of they have a lot of things in place that say, here's the list of these disciplinary actions,
Data.
and here is the list of consequences that you are allowed to give to these actions, right? So it already limits me in the way that I can respond to whatever the situation is. Might be kids fighting in recess, and I got to send them back to class. Why? Because that's the first offense. So what consequence can I give? A restorative conference, send them children back to class.
Right. That's the lollipop that
You know what I'm saying? So then, okay, say they fight again. Well, this is your second offense. So what's the worst I can give you this time? Lunch detention. So
it's like
kids
this
don't
kid's
care
been
about
beating people up for 2 days. Like
right.
all we can
And
do is lunch detention.
Parents are complaining. My child's getting hit on, and I get it, especially as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, but my hands are tied because this is what the district says
Right.
I am allowed to do as far as the consequence is concerned. So, and I mean, at certain ages, you can't even do out of school suspension. You
Right.
can't do alternative placement unless the child is at least in 3rd grade. I remember having a kid bring a knife to school, and she had the intent of using it. But because she was only in the 2nd grade, well, give me the knife. Let's have a conversation about what's appropriate and what's not. Her
That's
parents had to
crazy.
come pick it up. You know what I had to do? Send her right back to class. So it's like your hands are tied. But as a leader, I wanted the staff to see that too. Like, I did not want them to feel like, y'all don't never do nothing. Y'all don't support us. So I created a PD session. You know, one of those days where it was like no kids on campus, but we still had to show up and report.
Our favorite days.
Yeah. And so I typed out all of these scenarios, which were all real scenarios of things that had actually happened on campus that I had to address. And so I like put, you know, the teachers in teams. I'm like, here's your scenario, here's your scenario, here's yours. And then I gave them chart paper and I'm like, tell me how you would handle this scenario. Tell me how you would handle it. What would you do? What would you do? And so once everybody was done, we went through the scenarios. Okay, you know, team A, what did you say? Oh, we would suspend them and such and such and such.
Yep.
Okay, team C, what did you say? Or we would call the parents and we would give them in-school suspension and we would do da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, all these really extreme disciplinary consequences, which you think are appropriate for the kids that you're dealing with, right? I get it. But on my end of it, what I did was, one, showed them a lot of the kids that we dealt with were, you know, one student, I remember his mom would go out of town for weeks at a time to see her boyfriend and leave him at home by himself with his siblings.
Wow.
So they were fending for themselves as far as trying to eat, trying to get themselves dressed, trying to get to school. They were literally raising themselves.
Yeah.
They were on their own. So, yeah, he would come to school very angry, very frustrated because he was hungry, because he was tired, because he's trying to wake himself up for school. just all the things that you come to school with that nobody knows about.
Right.
And then just also helping them to see, like, some of these kids, mom just passed away, dad is in prison, they don't have nobody left, or just all the things that the kids will come to school with. So this is one, why they are behaving the way they're behaving. So helping them to see that perspective. But then two, I gave them a printout of, here are all of the offenses that can occur at school. Here are the allowable disciplinary actions that, as an administrator, we can give them. And when I showed them, and this was straight from the district, like the printout. And when I gave them that, they were like, what? I'm like, yeah. So it's not that I'm trying to send them back to class without a consequence, but my hands are tied on what consequences can be given.
Right.
And I was like, I really want y'all to just like hold on to that, right? Like post it up on the wall, because when so-and-so does X, Y, and Z in class, and you send them to the office thinking something is going to happen, just go back to the chart.
Nothing's happening.
What are they going to be able to do with this? Nothing. I might as well handle it in the classroom myself.
I'm glad you said that, because there's so many times where things can be handled in the classroom.
Yes.
I've always, even when I was a sub, I was like, I don't want admin down here for anything. I don't want them to just be poking their head in, because then it looks like I can't do my job.
Yeah.
So I was always from the very beginning, all right, how can I handle the situation?
Right.
And get this figured out and still keep a manageable classroom.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, that comes back to the
relationship.
Always comes back to the relationships. How do you build those? But also, it also comes back to, how did I learn these skills? So I'm gonna ask you this question. Where did you learn your leadership skills? Like, how did you pick them up along the way? Like, where do you feel like you grew the most as a leader? Like, how did you figure out what being a good leader looks like?
Yeah. So I'd say I learned a lot of leadership skills from my mentor. Just observing her, watching how she handled certain situations. And she was also very inviting. Like, I mean, I could have been in her office for anything, and she'd say, okay, you see this? Okay, pay attention to this, or take note on this. Like, she was very willing to pour into me as a leader. And I think she just saw something in me anyway. So maybe some of it was just kind of innate, like it was just already in there, and she just felt like it needs to be pulled out. But I observed a lot. I took notes a lot. And then when I went through my master's program, which was in educational leadership, a lot of the practicum activities that we had to do, like, forced me to figure this out. You know what I mean? So, like, what would you do if it's a fire in the building and what the normal exit is the one that's burning? How do you pivot in the moment? So, like, forcing us to come up with new plans and forcing us to, and then we had to, create those scenarios for fire drills. Like, teachers coming out the classroom thinking they're going out this exit door, and then we have this block there. How do you pivot in the moment? So I think the practicum activities really taught me a lot about, this is how you have to handle leadership. Like, everything is not going to follow the way that you laid it out to. Like, sometimes you are going to have to adjust. Sometimes you are going to have to adapt to whatever the situation is. But just being poured into also, like, was significant for me. A mentor.
I think leadership for me happened at church a lot, because everything like I said before, is referenced kind of with this frame of being a believer. And so the Bible teaches you a lot about leadership and how to handle people. So
That's true.
So that's where a lot of my frame of reference come from when it comes to handling conflict, or going. That's pretty much a lot of what it is
Yeah, it is.
Handling conflict and setting an example.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm always like, I don't want people to see me as like a fake Christian, somebody who talks it but doesn't walk it.
Right.
So, and a lot of what we're being called to do, are practical things that even somebody who's not a Christian or not a believer or whatever, those are things that people would want to set an example of.
Yeah.
Being somebody that's honest, that's trustworthy.
Yeah.
That doesn't stir up anger in other people. Somebody who's understanding. Those are all things that anybody can get behind.
Yeah.
So I try to first be an example.
That's good.
And then from there, it's just about, a lot of it is experience.
Experience.
So
plays a big part.
As you go through different situations, like I got into being a teacher at 28. So I have worked in so many different places, and I've had to settle conflict between two people, as a manager, where these people are not getting along for whatever reason, finding that common ground, so a lot of those things come from just learning them on the job.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say that. Yeah. Learning it.
Yeah, go for it.
Because sometimes you realize how you handled a certain situation. Maybe next time something similar happens, I might need to do something a little bit different. So learning through experiences is significant. And I'll say the book too, Crucial Conversations, was very helpful to me because I wasn't a person who could handle those tough conversations well. That wasn't
Why do you
my
think?
thing.
Why?
Because I don't like tension. I think I'm kind of by nature a people pleaser, so I don't want to do anything to upset anybody. Although I think it's necessary, right? It's like in some instances, you're gonna have conversations. People are not gonna always like your response or the direction you give. But that's just one of the things that I've had to learn, like especially having a conversation with a teacher who's eating another kid's lunch. You know what I'm saying? So those were like really some of the first times where I've had to like have those tough conversations. Like, hey, let me talk to you for a minute. It's my understanding, that this is what's going on, and also an awareness of my approach. Like, I just can't just go to somebody and say, everything. Are you eating his lunch? Like, who does that as an adult? Eats a kid, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't go.
That's not gonna work.
I have to go in like, it was brought to my attention that X, Y, and Z. I wanted to have a conversation with you about it to see if you had anything to offer. Is there some truth to it? Whatever. Just understanding how you approach a situation makes a difference in the outcome of a situation.
How do you feel like addressing when you're wrong, how does that help someone's leadership?
Ooh, I mean, I think it shows that you're willing to be responsible for your actions. When you can acknowledge when you mishandled something or maybe could have done it in a different way, it creates a level of vulnerability that people see in you. And I think it kind of heightens your respect for somebody. And I mean, I don't know that I've ever had, I don't know if I've ever had a leader apologize to me for anything, not as it relates to being in education, but I can definitely respect that somebody takes the time to say, you know what, I probably could have done that a little differently. And it just kind of gives me like you know what? I appreciate that. You know what I mean? I really appreciate that. You probably get a completely different response moving forward, right? Like it wouldn't have been that same level of tension between you and that student anymore. Like now,
right,
he can see you in a different light. And I think that's huge in leadership, to acknowledge when you've done something in error and then make efforts to amend it or to make it right.
How do you teach leadership skills in the classroom?
Create opportunity.
Ooh, I like it. Go.
Create opportunity. And I think that can start very young. I mean, elementary school, you see it a lot. Like you give kids jobs, right? Like you're the door holder or you're the attendance tracker or whatever. Whatever
silly thing you can come up with.
You get the lunch count for today. Just giving them that opportunity. But I see it. I think, and I do this with my own kids too. Like if I give you a chance to do X, Y, and Z, that will show me, like my daughter, she wants a second ear hole so bad. So bad. And I'm like, okay, well, if you can show me your responsibility with maintaining the one that you have,
Right.
then I'm willing to give you more responsibility, which, extends your leadership skills. So I think given opportunities in the classroom too, I don't know, maybe even give a student an opportunity to teach a lesson or lead a lesson, or if you do, like you said, you do projects a lot, so appointing a leader for the group.
Every time.
Yeah, I mean, and it just shows them, how to manage or deal with other people, teaching them problem solving skills. Like when you do group assignments, they don't always mesh
my
well.
goodness.
But I mean, it also teaches them how to navigate those kind of
Yes.
conflicts and
Yes.
how to work through it. Like, yeah, but we still a group. We still got to get this grade. We still got to do the work. So I think opportunity and like we talked about earlier, those experiences are the best way for kids to learn.
One of my favorite things to teach.
Yeah. So yeah, just finding what kids' strengths are and helping them use it in that way.
What do you do when you get burned out from being a leader? Having to kind of be responsible for all this stuff, all these people. How do you how do you deal with it? How do you figure it out?
I think one, you have to understand and know your own boundaries. You have to know what your limits are, and you have to know when it's time to shift. So for me, when I was like a campus leader, administrator, I was getting to the point of I'm going to leave education altogether. If something doesn't change. Because I knew I was getting there, but I didn't desire to, because again, like I always reminded myself of why I started doing this, how I got here anyway. For me, it was, let me shift gears. Let me start fresh, which is why I left the school district, left the position, new people, new environment, new everything.
New perspective.
So it gave me a chance to kind of start again and then do something different that would still keep me like operating in the same area, but not the same capacity.
Right. It also kind of gives you an opportunity to go, is it education?
Right.
Or is it me? Like, do I really need to leave education, or do I just need to leave this environment and get somewhere else?
And that was definitely one of the things I asked myself, like, is it education altogether? If I still feel this way after this year, then I know. But when I left and I did something different, it was like, nope, I'm good. Let me sit in this for just a minute.
I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. And so I think shifting sometimes is necessary. Like sometimes you have to know when I need to take a step back, or sometimes you have to know, like maybe I have too much on my plate and one of these things has to go. Like it may not have to be everything, but maybe just something has to go in order for me to not feel like, yeah, this is for the birds.
Yeah. We got it.
Okay.
I hope you all enjoyed that conversation between me and Sparkle. It's always a pleasure having her on as we provide the keys to unlocking the teacher life you desire. Before we get out of here, remember, leadership skills can be picked up almost anywhere if you're open to the opportunity. Also, creating opportunities to teach leadership skills in the classroom will be an invaluable experience for your students. Finally, develop the teachers around you with leadership skills. It will make them better educators inside and out of the classroom. As always, thank you for listening. Keep teaching, keep learning, and I will see you all on the next journey.